In Japan, asking your blood type can work a little like asking your zodiac sign, except the question often lands with a slightly different weight. Not just, what fun category are you? More like, what kind of person are you probably going to be? That is the strange part, because blood type is supposed to tell doctors who can donate to whom, and somehow in Japan it also became a personality label. This is one of those ideas that sounds too flimsy to survive, and yet it has survived for decades. Not because the science is strong, the science is weak. It survived because the idea is socially useful. It gives people a tiny, instant story about a stranger, a shorthand. The modern version of this story goes back to the 1920s. In 1927, a Japanese paper called **A Study of Temperament by Means of Human Blood Groups** argued that blood type might be linked to personality. That idea never became accepted science, but it entered the culture anyway. And that distinction matters, because once an idea is culturally legible, it does not need to be scientifically strong to keep traveling. It just needs to be memorable. Later, blood-type personality books helped push the idea into mainstream pop culture, and by the 1970s, the concept had a much wider popular audience. Then the whole thing surged again in the 2000s. In 2008, blood-type explanation books became such a visible commercial hit in Japan that 4 titles from one series landed in Oricon's annual top 10 book ranking. So this was never just one dusty theory sitting in a library. It became media material, magazine material, TV material, conversation material. And once something reaches that stage, it starts reproducing itself through repetition. You hear the type, you hear the trait, you meet someone, you fit them into the chart. Then the chart feels real because it is already waiting in your head. That is how pop psychology sticks. So what does the system actually say? The exact trait lists vary, but the basic stereotypes are familiar. Type A gets framed as careful, serious, organized, and anxious. Type B gets framed as creative, individualistic, and also selfish. Type O gets framed as confident, social, and big picture. Type AB gets framed as mixed, hard to read, or a little mysterious. Already you can see the appeal. These are broad enough to fit almost anybody some of the time, which means they work the same way a lot of personality systems work. They feel specific right up until you look too hard. But the more interesting question is where people use them, and the answer is, in all the places where light social sorting is useful: dating, friend groups, celebrity profiles, office small talk, self-description, first meetings. That is why the comparison to zodiac signs is only half right. A horoscope usually feels external and symbolic. Blood type feels biological. It sounds like the label comes from your body, not just the stars. That gives the whole thing an extra layer of authority, even when the evidence does not support it. And then there is another reason it survives. It is frictionless. According to a Japan Times interview with psychologist Yoshiyuki Watanabe, many people in Japan know their blood type, and the country's blood type distribution is balanced enough that guessing can feel rewarding. That makes the conversation easy to repeat. If you guess correctly, it feels insightful. If the trait sounds familiar, it feels confirmed. And if everyone around you already knows the script becomes a social tool, not a deep one, but a useful one. You do not need to fully believe it to use it. You just need to know that other people know it too. That is what turns the idea from pseudoscience into social interface, a shared little dashboard for reading people fast. And here is the twist. The reason blood-type personality culture lasted is probably not that Japan proved the theory. It is that Japan normalized the shortcut. The scientific case is weak. A large 2014 study using survey data from more than 10,000 people in Japan and the United States found no meaningful relationship between blood type and personality. In that analysis, blood type explained less than 0.3% of the variation in personality measures. That is basically nothing. But culturally, basically nothing can still become something powerful if it helps people make conversation, build identity, or sort impressions quickly. That is why even skepticism does not necessarily kill the habit. A person can say, "I do not really believe this," and still use it as a joke, an icebreaker, a dating filter, or a way to describe themselves. The label keeps working socially even when it stops working intellectually. And that is also where the danger comes in. Because once a shorthand starts feeling normal, stereotypes hitch a ride with it. There is even a Japanese term, *burahara*, for blood type harassment. So the system is not just harmless trivia. It can flatten people into a category and make that category feel strangely natural, which is exactly what bad social sorting systems do best. So why did blood type become a personality test in Japan? Not because the evidence was overwhelming, and not because everybody literally believes it like hard science. It happened because the idea was catchy, repeatable, easy to market, and socially convenient. It gave people a fast vocabulary for talking about difference. And once a vocabulary like that gets embedded in media and everyday conversation, it can outlive the argument that created it. That is what makes this topic worth decoding. It is not just a quirky superstition. It is a reminder that people do not only keep ideas that are true, they also keep ideas that are usable. And blood-type personality culture may be one of the clearest examples of a weak theory becoming a very durable social tool.